On the night that the day that I arrived there?
Yes.
Mr. Judge did help me at some point. Yes, okay. Sweeping up glass, etc.
And was there photos taken of more than the three pictures you've been shown?
Photos
of the house.
By whom?
Did you take any pictures of the house?
I took a few, yeah, I mean, yes.
And did you take pictures other than the three that we saw?
I think I probably did as I was going around.
Do you know who you gave those pictures to?
No.
Do you know what you took the photos with?
My phone.
And who would you have sent those photos to?
And send them to anybody at that point.
You just kept them?
Yes.
Did you show the photos to anyone?
No.
Do you still have the photos?
Yes.
Where are they, on your phone still?
They're on one of my devices, yes.
Okay. Did you take a photo of the vodka bottle that you said was broken?
Yes.
And you have that photo?
Yes.
Okay, and you didn't give that to anybody?
There are a fair few photos. I can show it to you now if you want.
How many photos did you have on your phone?
I don't remember the number, but probably more than 10.
Did anyone ever ask you for the photos?
Several of them, yes. Yes.
Did you give them to the people who asked?
Some of them, yes.
Not all of them?
I don't recall how many.
Who asked you for the photos?
I was involved in a case in London a couple of years ago.
Did you give the photo of the vodka bottle to the people that you were involved in the case in London?
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Overruled, all out.
Say again, sorry.
Did you give a photo of the vodka bottle to the people you were working with in London?
I don't recall which photos I gave them to.
So did you take photos of the walls?
The walls, certainly the smears of the blood and the damage, the plaster damage, yes.
You took photos of the walls with blood on it, is that right?
Yes.
And you took photos of the plaster, right, that was damaged?
At the end of the bar and in the bar, behind the bar, by the sink, yes.
And did you take photos of the ping pong table that you said was broken?
Yes, as part of the bar area, I'm sure.
Did you take photos of, there was a glass table that was broken too, correct?
A glass table? I don't recall a glass table.
Okay. Did you take photos of all the damage that was around the house?
Probably most of it, yes.
Okay. And the only time you gave those photos to anyone, you're saying, was in the UK case a couple years back?
I'd never shared them with anybody else, yes.
Okay. And it costs about $75,000 to clean up the damage, isn't that right?
I don't know the exact cost. I think I calculated at the time, you know, after all the vendors had been and done their thing, it's about 50,000, I seem to recall.
Okay. Now, you said you flew back to Australia with Ms. Heard, correct?
I didn't fly back with Ms. Heard.
Flew back to LA from Australia, thank you, with Ms. Heard, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were asleep for most of the flight, correct?
For a lot of it. I think it's a 14-hour flight, so I think we both slept for quite a lot of it, yeah.
You were exhausted from the 13 hours you were working on the house, right?
Correct.
All right. And your testimony was that Ms. Heard said to you, have you ever been so angry with someone that you just lost it, correct?
After I'd asked, so, you know, what happened.
But you didn't inquire as to what she was referring to, right?
I mean, by what happened, it was pretty clear what I was referring to.
Let me ask again. You did not inquire as to what she was referring to, did you?
With her answer?
Correct.
She didn't inquire as to my reason for asking, but it was pretty obvious to both of us what I was asking and what her reply was regarding.
You have the copy.
Yes, that's fine, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. King, you testified on behalf of Mr. Depp in the UK, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you provided 2 witness statements, correct?
Correct.
And then you provided testimony in court, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if you take a look at page 1103 of your testimony, you see how the pages go in 4s?
Yeah. No.
You see it's actually on the
Bottom right?
bottom right. You see that?
Yeah, got it.
And if you actually look at, you see starting at the bottom of 1102, this was a statement when you said you did not, you say, Ms. Heard asked you, have you ever been so angry with anyone that you lost it? Your answer, that's correct. And you specifically remember that, do you? Yes. You said it never happened to you. Answer, that is correct. Question, she did not, I mean, if it was said, nothing was said about who she was talking about, was it? Answer, she was asking me a question. Question, she was asking you a question. Answer, yes. Question, you did not inquire as to what she was referring to, did you? I do not recall asking. I know that she was asking for a question and I gave her an answer. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, and that was your testimony you gave in the UK 2 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't know what Ms. Heard was talking about when she made that statement, correct? You don't know if she was inquiring, that she was making that statement about Mr. Depp, right?
Like I said, I'd asked the question, what happened, referring to the house, and she gave me that answer. So I think we were both, it was pretty clear to both of us what we were talking about. I mean,
And then you went to sleep.
at that point,
And then you went to sleep, and then you had the flight the rest of the time.
sometime after that, yeah.
Okay. Now, and you said you saw Ms. Heard with cuts on her arm, is that right? On the
That's
flight?
right, towards the end of the flight, yeah.
Okay. If we could put up 376G. Do you recognize this picture?
I've not seen this picture before.
Were these the cuts? Did you see cuts like this on Ms. Heard?
Is that misheard?
Why don't we put up 376C? Do you recognize the person in that picture?
That's misheard.
All right. And did you see cuts like that which are on her left arm?
Similar to that, long, like I described earlier, long, thin cuts, pretty uniform cuts.
These were the the cuts were like this on her kind of wrist, forearm area, is that right?
I don't know what the date of this photograph is, but they look pretty uniform like they do here, yes.
Okay. Like to enter 376C into evidence?
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, 376C in evidence.
What's that?
No, you can't change it.
And can we put back up 376G? Seeing 376C, is this consistent with the scratches on 376G, or are these consistent with the scratches you saw in Ms. Heard?
I don't see a date. Is that the same time. Is that the same date?
Oh, my,
I mean,
my
these
question
are-
is, are the scratches similar to what you saw in Ms. Hurd?
These are uniform, kind of long, thin scratches. Yes.
I'd like to enter
scratches.
376G into evidence.
Any objection?
I mean, foundation, he hasn't authenticated the document through this witness.
I mean, I'm just asking if the pictures are consistent with what
I'll
he's.
allow it 376G in evidence.
And can you publish it, please?
It is.
Thank you. Okay. Now, you were in the house, you said, for 12 to 13 hours on March 8th, 2015, correct?
Correct. Going into March 9th, 2015.
Okay. And you spoke to Mr. Judge when you were in the house, correct?
I had interaction with Mr. Judge, yes.
And you had interaction with Dr. Kipper when you were in the house, correct?
Correct.
And you had interaction with Debbie Lloyd when you were in the house, correct?
Yes, briefly.
Okay. And isn't it true that in the entire time you were there, you were not informed as to what caused damage to Mr. Depp's finger on March 8th?
Objection, hearsay.
I'm asking what he wasn't told.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
You didn't know what could cause damage to Mr. Depp's hand while you were there on March 8th, correct?
Dr. Kipper told me he sustained an injury on one of his fingers.
Objection, hearsay.
Wait, you asked the question.
Oh,
Next question.
okay. You said he sustained an injury to his finger,
Yes,
but you don't know what caused the injury to his finger.
one of
correct?
his fingers.
But you don't know you don't know how his finger was injured,
I
correct?
don't think anybody mentioned it to me at that time.
Right, no one mentioned it to you at that time, correct?
I don't
Same objection, Your Honor,
recall.
hearsay.
Sorry, I'll allow it. Next question. He answered it.
Now, you understand that there was a phone in the house that was recording during the cleanup, correct?
Sorry, I didn't hear all of that.
Did you come to understand that there was a phone in the house that was recording as people were cleaning up?
At that time, no.
But you now know that there was a phone that was recording people as they were cleaning up, correct?
Objection, foundation, hearsay.
I'm not asking for particular statements.
That's fine. I'll allow it if he knows.
I believe that came up somewhere later on. At that time, I wasn't aware, but I believe I became aware of it later, yes.
Okay. I would like to put up defendant's 378. It's a recording, and I want to play a couple of times. 12:07 through 13:19.
Is that the only segment you wish to have?
And then I would also I'd also like to play 1951 through 21:38.
And is this going to be used again, or is this,
I think it would be A.
okay, 378A? Any objection to 378A?
Yes, Your Honor, we do have an objection. I believe this is a recording that has the voices of people other than Ms. Hurd and Mr.
Okay.
Depp, and on that basis, it's hearsay.
Okay.
Unless I'm incorrect about which document we're talking about.
Can we
Sure.
Excuse me, sorry about that. Going back to the photos that you took for a moment, of that damage in the house, you recall giving that testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Depp ask you for the photos?
No.
Did you give the photos to counsel for Mr. Depp?
Some of them, yes. Yeah.
Did you withhold any photos for Mr. Depp or his counsel?
Didn't withhold any photos from anybody. I didn't withhold.
Did you give all of the photos you have on your phone to Mr. Depp and his counsel?
Not all of the photos on my phone, no.
All the photos of the damage that occurred on March 8th, 2015.
Probably not all of them. I don't think so, no.
You didn't give them all. You didn't give them all to Mr. Depp and his counsel.
I don't believe I gave all of the photos.
Why not?
Because there are a decent amount of them. I mean,
So you picked and chose what photos you were going to give to Mr. Depp and his counsel?
I gave an amount of photos to them.
Do you know how many photos you gave to Mr. Depp and his counsel?
I don't know precisely, no.
Could you give an estimate as to how many photos you gave?
I really can't. No, an amount. I don't recall how many.
More than 3?
Yes,
More than 10?
possibly more than 10. Yeah, maybe.
Between 10 and 20?
Objection.
Possible.
Speculation.
I mean-
Hasn't been answered.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
Do you know?
Sorry.
She overruled you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Possibly more than 10. Yeah,
But somewhere between 10 and 20, is that right?
possibly. I honestly don't know.
Could it be more than 20?
I don't think so.
Did Mr. Depp's counsel ask for all the photos?
I don't recall.
You don't recall one way or the other what they asked for?
I gave them some photos. I don't recall how many were asked for, requested.
And those were requested in 2020,
Correct. Prior to
prior to the UK
that, yes.
trial? Did they ask for them in this case?
I believe I supplied some for this case also, yeah.
You supplied photos for this case to Mr. Depp's counsel?
I believe I did.
Okay. And was that about the between 10 and 20 photos that you're talking about?
I don't remember how many for this.
But it was the same amount of photos that you gave to the Mr. Depp's counsel in the UK?
I don't know if it was the same amount. I
Did-
don't recall.
Did Mr. Depp's counsel in this case ask for all the photos you had of the damage of March 8th, 2015?
All of the photos? I don't think they requested all of the photos.
They didn't ask for all the photos you had of that damage?
I don't know if they requested them all.
Okay. Was it Mr. Waldman who asked you for the photos?
Originally, I don't remember who called it. Shillings. Were the,
Did Mr. Waldman
the
ever ask
company.
you for the photos?
I don't know if he asked me specifically. If he was part of that team, I assume so.
And you spoke to Mr. Waldman, is that right?
I did a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Okay. And he was part of the team that was asking for the evidence you had of what occurred in Australia in 2015, is that right?
He was part of that team, as I understood it. Yeah.
Okay. And as part of that team, he and others were asking for photos from Australia from March 8th, 2015, is that right?
They requested them at some point. Some of them.
And that's when you provided the 10 to 20 photos,
An
is that
amount
right?
of photos, correct.
Okay. And then was there a separate counsel that asked you for the photos in this case?
Yes.
There was?
Yeah. I mean,
Was
it
it-
was
was it-
essentially the same.
Who was it that asked you
Photos.
for photos in this case?
I don't recall a name specifically.
Was it a man or a woman?
I don't. I just part of the team. I don't recall.
Okay. And when did they make that request?
When I don't know a date. I don't know specifically.
You know what year?
This year, last year. I mean, prior to this, obviously.
So it could have been in 2022 that they asked you for the photos?
I think it was prior to that. I don't recall.
So maybe late 2021 or early 2022, is that what you're saying?
Honestly, don't recall which part of the year.
But it's either 2021 or 2022, is that right?
I would imagine that's probably correct.
Okay. And you gave them some of the photos you had?
As I just said, yes,
Okay, but not all of them.
correct.
So do you have more than 10 to 20 photos on your phone of the damage that occurred in Australia?
Again, I don't recall the amount.
But you have a larger amount on your phone than what you provided to Mr. Depp's counsel, is that right?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered. Cumulative.
I'll sustain the objection. It was asked and answered.
Okay. It's going to London for a couple minutes. You didn't live at the house in London, correct?